Hello and welcome back to the Deep End. I'm your host, and I'm ready to jump off the diving board into the strange, swirling waters of consciousness.
And I'm here to make sure we have a parachute. Or, at least a very detailed map so we don't get lost in the void.
Is the void navigable? Or is that just something we tell ourselves to feel a little bit better?
We are starting with the existential dread early today, I see.
We have to, because today we are tackling a topic that literally keeps people up at night. We aren't talking about time management. We're not talking about, how to squeeze more productivity out of your Google Calendar.
No.
We are talking about the actual structural, nuts and bolts nature of time itself.
The architecture of reality.
Exactly. We are cracking open the Seth Material again. Specifically, we are looking at the early sessions, Book 3, published by the New Awareness Network, and we're zooming in on one very specific and very loud night, May 3rd, 1965, session 151.
A classic session, and a surprisingly funny one, which you might not expect given the, the depth of the metaphysics.
Right. Before we get into the mind-bending stuff, and trust me, your brain is going to need a massage after this, we had to do the housekeeping. This deep dive is distributed completely free of charge on all major platforms, and it's for educational purposes. We aren't selling you a mantra, a crystal, or a timeshare in the fourth dimension.
No timeshares today, definitely not.
We are just here to explore the ideas that are in the source material. And for the record, while we are your, let's say, enthusiastic guides through this density, we aren't the authors. If you want the real deal, the raw data, the undiluted experience, you have to go to the source.
Right, you have to. The early sessions are published by the New Awareness Network. We'll remind you where to find them later, but keep that in mind. We are just the tour guides pointing out the landmarks. They own the land.
Okay, housekeeping done. Let's set the scene. Because context is absolutely everything with these sessions. You really can't separate the philosophy from the room it happened in.
That's one of the things I love about the early sessions. It's not just some textbook from the sky. It's a diary. It's alive.
So picture this. It's 1965. We are in Elmira, New York. It's a Monday night about 9 o'clock. Now, usually when we think of channeling or, trance mediums, we have a very specific image in our heads.
Oh, yeah. Dark rooms, velvet curtains, maybe some incense burning. Very theatrical.
Spooky theremin music playing in the background, that whole thing.
Exactly. Very staged.
But this is domestic. It's springtime. The windows are open because it's a nice night. And right outside Jane Roberts' living room window, the neighbors are throwing a lawn party.
A loud one.
A really loud one. The notes specifically mention it. There's clinking glasses, shouting, laughter. It's the suburbs in full swing. It's 1965, so maybe they're listening to the Beach Boys or something. It's just mundane. It's noisy.
And inside, amidst all that clamor, you have Jane Roberts and her husband Robert Butts, and Jane is about to leave the building, so to speak.
And this is a critical detail that Rob notes in the transcript. Usually, Jane's trance voice is conversational. It's her voice, maybe a little faster, a little more energetic. But tonight, because of the noise outside, it shifts.
He describes it as the voice, with a capital V.
He says it became deep, heavy, monotone.
And imagine that contrast for a second. You're sitting there, you can hear the neighbors yelling about whose turn it is to grab a beer, and then inside your living room, this booming, slow, resonant voice just cuts through it all to talk about the nature of the void.
It's almost a perfect metaphor for the material itself, isn't it? You have the lawn party, which is our surface reality, the noise, the distraction, the social stuff, the did I leave the oven on thoughts.
And then you have this undercurrent, this deep, resonant truth that is always there, just beneath the noise, trying to get a word in edgewise.
And Jane, the human vessel here, she's actually just started smoking again.
That's in the notes, too. It's such a human touch. It really is.
It is. Rob is sitting there, taking verbatim notes in shorthand. And he's clearly worried. He's thinking, is Seth going to yell at her? Is this, highly evolved energy personality going to lecture us on lung health?
But Seth ignores it completely.
He has much bigger fish to fry. He wants to talk about the moment point.
The moment point. Okay, let's unpack this, because this is the absolute foundation of the whole session.
Right. When you and I say moment, we usually mean like a second. We mean a tick on a watch, a very specific, agreed-upon slice of time.
Right. It's a measurement of duration. We think of time as a ruler, and a moment is maybe 1 millimeter on that ruler.
But Seth just says no. He basically throws the ruler out the window.
He completely redefines the concept. Seth defines a moment point not by the clock, but by action. He says a moment point is actually composed of the amount of action you are capable of assimilating within your present framework.
Assimilating action. It sounds like bandwidth.
That is actually a perfect analogy for a modern listener. Think of your consciousness as an internet connection.
Okay, I'm picturing an old-school dial-up modem. You know, the one that makes the screeching noises,
Yeah.
that whole sound.
Unfortunately, yes. That's a good place to start. If you're on dial-up, it takes you a long time to download a high-resolution image. You get it line by painful line. That loading time is your experience of time passing.
Because my processor, or my connection, is slow.
Exactly. But if you have fiber optic gigabit internet, that same image arrives instantly. The moment of download is totally different, even though the file size, the amount of action, is the same.
So the moment is just the size of the download packet my system can handle.
In a way, yes, a moment isn't some fixed speed of the universe, it's a limit of your processor. Seth says, and I'm quoting here, a moment point is actually composed of the amount of action you are capable of assimilating.
This explains so much about subjective time. You know that feeling when you're in a car accident where something shocking happens and time just slows way, way down?
Yes. Why does that happen?
Because I'm freaking out.
Well, yes, but mechanically it's because your processor just overclocked. You are suddenly assimilating way more action or data than usual. The screech of tires, the glass breaking, the smell of rubber, the look on the other driver's face, all of it.
So because I'm processing a massive amount of data, the moment expands to hold it all.
Yes. A second becomes 10 seconds because you packed more reality into it. You widen the container.
And on the flip side, when you're bored in a meeting,
you aren't processing anything. No new action. So the moment feels empty and it drags while you're in it. But weirdly, when you look back, the whole hour just vanished because nothing memorable happened. There was no data stored.
Okay, so if a moment is just a container for action, where does the ego fit in?
Yeah.
Because Seth seems to, I don't know, pick a fight with the ego in this session, or at least he puts it in the corner.
He doesn't pick a fight so much as he puts it in its place. He defines its role. He calls the ego the apex of the moment point.
The apex. This sounds sharp. Almost like a predator.
It is sharp. The ego is the cutting edge. It's the part of you that meets physical reality first. But Seth also says the ego is utterly focused upon and imprisoned by the moment point.
Imprisoned. That's a loaded word. It implies the ego is a victim or maybe, a convict.
Or a specialist.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. To survive in physical reality, to navigate that lawn party outside,
Right.
you have to focus on sequential events.
Right.
Someone hands you a drink, you say thank you, you take a sip. If you experienced all those things at once, the drink, the thanks, the sip, the digestion, the hangover the next morning, you'd be paralyzed.
You just spill the drink all over yourself.
You would. You need the sequence. Cause then effect. Before then after.
The ego provides that sequence.
Yes. It takes the massive simultaneous data of reality and chops it up into these little bite-sized pieces that we call seconds. And Seth uses a brilliant analogy here. He says the ego experiences simultaneous action in slow motion as a child must learn to walk before the child can run.
I love that image.
Oh.
So the ego it's a toddler.
In a cosmic sense, yeah, pretty much.
It's just stumbling around.
And Seth says, and this is another great quote, this stumbling gait is what you call time.
Wow. Okay, hold on. Let me just sit with that for a second. Time isn't a river. Time isn't a fourth dimension. Time is just us stumbling.
It's the buffer. It's the learning curve. If you could process all action simultaneously, you wouldn't need time. You would just be. But because we're learning to manipulate energy, learning to be creators, we need to slow the film down. We have to see it frame by frame.
So the ego is the projector slowed down to 1 frame per second so we can study all the little details.
Precisely. And that focus is what makes the ego sharp and brilliant, according to Seth. He's not bashing the ego at all. He acknowledges its brilliance. But the problem starts when we think the ego is all we are.
That's the trap.
That is the trap, because while the ego is locked in the stumbling gait, the rest of you, the inner self, the subconscious, is doing something completely different.
Let's talk about the subconscious then.
Yeah.
If the ego is the toddler looking down at his feet, trying not to trip over a crack in the sidewalk, what is the subconscious doing?
The subconscious is the parent watching the whole playground. Seth says the inner portions of the self exist in the spacious present.
The spacious present. I've always loved that term in the Seth books. It sounds so I don't know, luxurious, like a big living room with high ceilings.
It is. It implies that now isn't a tightrope you're walking on. It's a field. It's a landscape.
Mm.
While the ego is laser focused on what is happening this second, the subconscious is reaching out and seizing upon many moment points at the same time.
So the subconscious isn't bound by that whole before and after rule.
Not at all. Seth is very specific here. He says, to many portions of the inner self, then, what you would call a moment would correspond to an almost limitless number of moments.
This breaks my brain a little bit.
Okay, let's try to visualize it. Imagine you are reading a book. Your eyes, that's the ego, can only read one word at a time. You go left to right, line by line. That's linear time.
Okay, got it.
But the book itself, the physical object in your hands, it's sitting there, complete, all at once. The last page exists at the exact same time as the first page.
So the end of the story exists at the same time as the beginning.
Exactly. Your hand holding the book, that's the inner self. It holds the whole narrative. Your eye reading the word is the ego.
So Seth is saying that for the inner self, one moment of our time could be, what, a year? A whole century?
He says, conceivably, therefore, one moment of your time would indeed be experienced by the whole self as centuries.
Centuries.
Because the dimensions of time grow as your capacity to perceive action grows. If you can go deep into the action, if you can see the emotional history, the probable futures, the cellular memory of just a single event, then that 1 second becomes a vast landscape for you to explore.
It totally flips the script on how we value time. We're always obsessed with length. I want to live to be 100. I wish this vacation was 2 weeks long instead of 1.
Right, we want to stretch the timeline out horizontally.
What Seth is saying, go vertical.
Yes. Depth. He calls it value fulfillment. It's about filling the moment with the quality of your perception. You can live more in 5 minutes of intense, aware appreciation of a sunset than someone else lives in 10 years of sleepwalking through their routine.
That is both terrifying and liberating at the same time.
It puts the responsibility on us, doesn't it? It's not about how much time you have. It's about how much you bring to the time.
I want to get to the puddle analogy because for me, reading this session, that was the moment where the light bulb just is shattered.
It's the iconic image of the session. Maybe the whole book, honestly.
So set this up for us. Seth is trying to explain how the ego navigates this weird stumbling time versus how the whole self sees it. What's the image he uses?
He says, it is only the ego that steps from moment to moment. As a man who walks from puddle to puddle, it is only the ego who drowns in time.
It is only the ego who drowns in time. I feel like I should get that tattooed somewhere. It's powerful.
It's profound poetry. Let's break down the image. You have a man walking in the rain. He sees a puddle. He steps into it. Splash. He steps out. He sees the next puddle. Splash.
To him, the journey is just a series of wet feet and dry spots.
And gaps. He sees a puddle, then nothing, then a puddle. He thinks the continuity is broken. And he thinks that if he stops walking, if he stops moving forward, he's going to drown or just disappear.
The drowning is the anxiety.
Exactly. It's the fear of running out of time, the fear that if I'm not doing something, I don't exist. That is a core ego fear.
If we zoom out.
If we zoom out to the perspective of the whole self, let's say we're looking down from a helicopter. We see the whole street. We see all the puddles at once. We see the dry land between them. We see where he came from and where he's going.
The puddles are all simultaneous from that view.
And the man isn't drowning at all. He's just walking. The struggle is an illusion created by his very limited perspective.
This leads us right into one of the most controversial and, well, mind-bending parts of the Seth material. Reincarnation or the lack of it.
The simultaneous lives theory.
Because if the street is all there at once, if all the puddles are visible from the helicopter,
then there are no past lives and there are no future lives.
Seth is very blunt about this. He says, and I'm quoting again, "The inner self, dear friends, these lives were not in the past, nor is the life of the ego necessarily present to the whole self."
That last part is the real kicker. Nor is the life of the ego necessarily present.
Meaning now, this moment, us recording this, me drinking his coffee, this feels like the only real thing in the universe to me.
To your ego, yes, it has to. That's its job. Focus.
But to my whole self.
To your whole self, this life in 2026 is just one channel on a massive screen. Channel 4 is you in 2026. Channel 5 is you as a blacksmith in 1400. Channel 6 is you as a starship pilot in 2300. And they are all broadcasting live right now.
And whole self is just watching the multiverse marathon.
Watching. No, participating.
Ah, participating. That's an important distinction.
The whole self isn't a passive observer eating popcorn. Seth says the whole self projects fragments and personalities to different moment points to, and this is key, work out their own destinies.
This is where Jane does something physical in the session, isn't it?
Yes. In the middle of this really high-level talk, Jane reaches out and raps her knuckles on the table. Just knock, knock, knock.
Why? What was the point?
To prove a point. She's grounding the concept. She's basically saying, this table is solid, this moment is real, you are not just a puppet. Even though you are part of a larger self, you, the fragment, the ego, you have solidity, you have agency, you are working out your own destiny.
It's a paradox, then.
It is. We are independent, and yet we are connected. We are solitary walkers, and yet we are the street.
And if we knew everything the whole self knew?
We couldn't function. Imagine trying to drive a car if you were simultaneously aware of being a blacksmith in 1400 and a pilot in 2300. You'd crash.
You'd be completely overwhelmed.
The limitation of the ego, the prison, is actually a protective suit. It blocks out the noise of the multiverse so you can focus on this lesson, on this life.
You can't learn to walk if you can already teleport.
Exactly. The struggle, the sequence, the oops, I fell down, that is the point. That is the value fulfillment.
Speaking of value fulfillment, I want to pivot to art, because Seth brings this up in a way I hadn't really heard before. And since Rob was a painter, this was obviously very personal for them.
It was. Rob was always struggling with the validity of his art. He'd ask, is this just a waste of time? Should I be making money instead?
And Seth says, no, go paint.
He does, but he explains why art matters metaphysically. He asks, why does a great painting feel timeless? Why can you look at the Mona Lisa or a Van Gogh and feel like the world just stops for a second?
I've felt that. You stand in front of a canvas and the noise in your head it drops.
Seth argues that this happens because the artist has captured a dominant essence. The artist has managed to merge multiple moment points into one single physical object.
Okay, unpack that. How do you merge moment points?
Well, think about the act of painting. It takes time. Days, weeks, maybe months. The artist is pouring their focus, their emotion, frustration, joy, all these different moments of their life into this one square of canvas. They are compressing their own time into a physical object.
So the painting is like a battery.
Yes. It's a storage device for compressed psychic energy. And when you, the viewer, come along 100 years later and look at it, that energy discharges, it hits you.
And because it's so dense with action,
your ego has to expand to perceive it. It shocks you out of your little sequential puddle hopping. For a second, you get a glimpse of the spacious present through the window of the painting.
that creates the feeling of awe.
That is awe. Awe is the ego momentarily realizing it's part of something much, much bigger.
Seth tells Rob that painting is very necessary to your own concept of yourself. And he says something fascinating about the energy exchange. He says you don't just put energy into the painting.
Right. He says you derive energy from it. It's a reciprocal loop. As you work, the work works on you.
The work works on you. I like that.
Yeah.
It applies to more than just painting, right? Coding, writing, gardening. Anytime you are in that creative flow.
You are tapping into the spacious present. You lose track of time because you have stepped outside of time.
Which brings us to another place where we step outside of time. Dreams.
The dream universe.
Now, most people, even open-minded people, tend to think of dreams as less real. It's just mental garbage. Or maybe it's my brain defragmenting my hard drive for the day.
Seth absolutely rejects that view. He treats the dream universe as a place just as solid, just as valid as Elmira, New York was in 1965.
He says it pervades physical fields. What does that mean?
It means it's not somewhere else. It's right here. It's superimposed over our reality, like a different radio frequency. And he says the relationship between our waking life and our dream life is chemical and psychic.
Chemical. That implies biology. That implies actual matter.
It implies that what you do in a dream physically alters your body, and what you do in your body alters your dreams. It's a two-way street. It's not just in your head.
So if I'm stressed out at the long party,
that stress bleeds into your dream constructs. But more importantly, if you solve a problem in a dream, if you face a fear, or practice a new skill in that environment, it changes your physical reality.
Seth says, from one field of activity, then you have changed another, and without ever knowing, in many cases, that you have done so.
Think about how often you wake up feeling better about something or with the study solution to a problem, but you can't remember the dream. You did the work on the night shift and brought the results back to the day shift.
It's like we have dual citizenship.
We do. And in the dream universe, the ego is less rigid. We aren't as imprisoned by that one moment at a time rule. We can try on different roles. We can experience past or future probabilities. It's a creative laboratory.
A simulation sandbox.
Exactly. And this connects to one of Seth's favorite terms.
Camouflage.
Reality is camouflage. This trips people up. When we say camouflage, we think of a soldier hiding in the bushes. We think of, deception. But Seth uses it differently. He means structure. He means the form that energy takes in order to be visible in a certain system.
So a tree is real.
The consciousness of the tree is real. The energy is real. But the bark, the leaves, the specific tree-ness of it, that is the camouflage pattern that consciousness is wearing so it can exist in our physical system.
Like an avatar in a video game. The player is real, but the elf costume is the camouflage.
Yes, and time is part of the camouflage. Space is part of the camouflage.
So the moment point, that second on the clock, is just a costume, the setting.
It's a variable setting. Seth says reality constantly wears a different face. He says it is speeded up or slowed down according to the scope of perception.
To an atom, a second might be 1 billion years. To a star, a second might be nothing.
And to the inner self, it's all malleable.
Which brings us back to the most malleable thing of all, human patience.
Or the lack of it.
We have to talk about the soon joke, because for all this high-minded metaphysics, Seth can be, frustratingly vague about time when it comes to practical matters.
This is a running gag in the early sessions. Rob and Jane were broke. They were struggling artists in the 60s. They were always asking, Seth, when will we sell a book? When will we get some money?
And Seth would always say, shortly.
Or, in a short time.
Now to you and me, shortly means, Friday. Maybe next week at the latest.
To Seth, who lives in the spacious present where 1400 and 2026 are happening at the same time, shortly is a very relative term.
And in this session, he advises Rob on his finances and says things will get more comfortable within a short time. But then, and I imagine he did this with a cosmic wink, he clarifies.
He drops the bomb. He says, though to you this may be 2 years.
2 years. Can you imagine your boss telling you, great job, you're getting a raise shortly? In about 730 days.
Rob must have just put his head in his hands. He must have been so frustrated.
There's a note about a previous misunderstanding where Seth's soon meant 5 months for book sale.
They were learning to translate Seth time into human time, and it really highlights that disconnect. The ego is desperate for the next puddle. The inner self sees the final destination and says, relax, you get there eventually. The duration is irrelevant.
Easy for the inner self to say. The inner self doesn't have rent to pay.
Very true. But Seth isn't just teasing them. He gives them and us actual tools to bridge this gap. He doesn't just say, wait. He says, work.
Let's get into the actionable advice.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just philosophy. It's a user manual. What is the first prescription?
Psi time. Psychological time.
This is a core Seth exercise. He mentions it in almost every book. But in this early session, he's really pushing Rob to do it. He says, 20 minutes daily.
For our listeners who might not know, Psi time is essentially a form of meditation, but the goal isn't just to be quiet. The goal is to consciously change the focus of your awareness.
How you do it?
You sit or lie down somewhere quiet, close your eyes, and you consciously tune out the physical stimuli. You tune out the camouflage. You ignore the traffic noise, the feeling of the chair, the temperature in the room.
You stop focusing on all the sensory input.
Right. And instead, you turn your attention inward. You try to sense the spacious present. You look for the feeling of your own existence, independent of time.
It's about breaking that puddle-hopping habit for just 20 minutes a day.
Exactly. It's giving the ego a break. It's like putting the toddler down for a nap so the parent can actually get some work done in peace.
And Seth says if they do this and get regular about it, it will help with everything, even their finances.
Because you stop blocking the flow of energy. When the ego is constantly freaking out about the future, where's the money coming from, what if I fail, it creates resistance. Psi time helps dissolve that resistance. It aligns you with the source of your own reality.
So step 1, shut up and go inside for 20 minutes. What's step 2?
Step 2 is the exact opposite. Go outside.
The nature walk.
Seth prescribes a daily short walk. It sounds so mundane, doesn't it? Like something your GP would tell you for your cholesterol.
But Seth calls it value fulfillment.
Why?
He says, there is indeed a value fulfillment within the enjoyment of nature that can release you from many restraints.
What restraints is he talking about?
The restraints of the ego's rigid focus. See, nature is fluid, it's fluent. A tree doesn't have an ego blocking its own growth. A cloud doesn't worry about whether it's moving fast enough.
Nature just is.
And when you throw your consciousness outward into nature, that's the phrase he uses, you harmonize with that easy, natural flow. And Seth says when you do this, your inwardness will be replenished.
That is a beautiful image. It's like you're casting a fishing line into the natural world to reel in some peace.
It connects back to the lawn party frustration. Rob admits in the notes that he was really annoyed by the noise. He was judging the neighbors. You know, look at those shallow people drinking beer while we do this important spiritual work.
Which is a classic spiritual ego trap. I'm so enlightened and you are so noisy. Right. And Seth very gently corrects him. He calls him out on it. He says, when all your sensitivity is directed into sensations of misgiving, then however the balance is wrong.
That hits home. How often do we use our sensitivity just to be annoyed?
Constantly. The room is too cold. That guy is chewing too loud. The traffic is bad. We are these high-performance machines using our processing power to render irritation.
We channel our focus into resistance.
And Seth suggests emotional spontaneity. He says spontaneity will open many doors.
What does he mean by spontaneity? Just like doing whatever you want?
No, not impulsiveness. Spontaneity in this context means not blocking the emotion. If you feel annoyance at the lawn party, okay, feel it, acknowledge it, but then let it move. Don't build a fortress around it. Don't create this whole narrative about how terrible the neighbors are.
And also look for the joy.
Seth says, do not refuse those joys that are available to you. Even with the loud party, even with the financial stress, there is joy available. There is the spring air coming through the window. There is the painting that's waiting to be painted.
It's a call to be permeable, to just be open.
Which brings us to the closing warning of the session. It's one of my favorite quotes from this material. It sums up the entire dilemma of the ego perfectly.
Read it for us.
Seth says, you must be open even to maintain the strength of the ego itself. But when you are not open, not only are you imprisoned by the moment, but you are not able to enjoy even that fully.
That is the mic drop.
It really is. We think being closed off protects our ego. We think we need to defend our little fortress against the noise, against the other, against time itself.
But Seth says that defense mechanism just makes the prison cell smaller.
If you close yourself off, you are imprisoned by the moment, and you don't even get to enjoy the moment. You get the absolute worst of both worlds.
You're trapped in a puddle and you're complaining about how wet the water is.
Precisely. Whereas if you are open, even the puddle can be a reflection of the sky.
So what does this all mean for us? For the listener driving to work or doing dishes or walking their dog in 2026, we aren't in Elmira. We aren't trance mediums.
But we are all egos. We are all walking from puddle to puddle.
We are all drowning in time occasionally.
The takeaway here is perspective. You don't have to destroy your ego. You need it. It's your focus point. It's your hands and feet in this world. You need to pay your bills and check the clock.
But don't mistake the map for the territory.
Right. Remember that the you that is worried about being late or worried about money or annoyed by the neighbors, that is just the tip of the iceberg. That is just the toddler learning to walk.
The rest of you, the whole self, is chilling in the spacious present. It sees the beginning and the end. It knows the story ends well.
It knows it's all just a creative venture, a value fulfillment.
So practically.
Practically, take the walk, look at the birds, remind yourself that nature isn't rushing anywhere.
And do the side time.
Try it, 20 minutes. Just try to find the silence behind the noise. Try to find the space between the seconds.
And if your neighbors threw a lawn party?
Maybe go join them. Or at least realize that their party and your meditation are just two different channels on the same TV. Don't let the noise ruin your connection to the deep void.
I love that. One final thought for me. We talked about value fulfillment. I think the mission of this deep dive is a kind of value fulfillment.
How so?
We are taking these old typed pages from 1965 literal carbon copies in some cases, and we are breathing new life into them. We are circulating this energy again in 2026.
It proves Seth's point about time, doesn't it? The energy from that moment point in 1965, Jane's voice, the lawn party, the cigarette smoke, it is reaching out and touching us right now. The time gap is an illusion.
We are in the living room with them.
We are, and we hope you, the listener, felt that too.
If this piqued your interest, and I really hope it did, please don't stop here. We are just the trailer. Go watch the movie.
Visit SethCenter.com. Specifically, look for the early sessions. Reading Seth is a different experience than hearing about him. It has a vibration to it.
It changes you. It rewires your processor.
It upgrades the bandwidth.
Thank you for joining us on this trip through the ego, the void, and yes, the lawn party.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep your ego flexible and your present spacious.
And watch out for the puddles.